Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So till now we have discovered what methods are, and we have also learned some example by taking some methods named as sum, subtract, average, and we have used some nested method as well, like we have invoked a method within a method. So we have seen this kind of examples till now. We saw why do we need the parameters, and we can have n number of parameters where n can be 0 as well, which means we have no parameters over here. We saw what is return type, why do we need a return type, and how can I use the return type in my program. So till now we have discovered this kind of scenarios. But now one thing you would have noticed, when like if you are not new to programming, you would have noticed these two words. I'm not sure that maybe you are aware about the difference between them or not. Okay, so I'll just explain what is the difference between these two. So while at the time of declaration, this is my method signature, and the method signature have the parameters. The one that we pass through when we are invoking the method are nothing but arguments. So I am passing 4, 2 as arguments, but my method sum takes two parameter of type int, int. So these are nothing but parameter, while the value that we pass are arguments. So I hope you are not getting confused with these two words, and I hope like you will be getting a clear view that what is the difference between parameter and argument. It was quite very easy for you. So now, okay, so let's get started with today's session. As we have discussed, we are going to learn about instance and static methods. So first of all, what do you know by static and instance word? So you know, whenever I want to declare something as static, I use the static keyword, correct? While the static are for class level or with respect to the class. So while the variable are called as class variable, so again the methods are with respect to the class, and instance are with respect to the object, so they are called as object level. Okay, so now what is the difference between them, how do we use them, and we'll see can I invoke any one of them or not. Yes, so over here these are the parameters and these are the arguments. I hope your doubt is clear. Yes, so now let's proceed with instance and static methods. So okay, so let me declare this method as instance. Now this is a kind of instance method, while the other two are static methods. Okay, so let me comment this one for now. All right, so now can I invoke the sum method directly? The answer is no, because now the copy for sum is not available, because the copy for instance is only available when we have a object. So as we have discussed, number of instance stuff in a layman language is equals to number of objects, correct? So how many objects do I have over here? You will say 0. So how many copies of sum I will have? Again 0. So if I don't have any copy, how can I invoke that? But can I invoke the subtract method? You will say yes, because for static there is always a copy, a single copy, whether there is an object or not. Irrespective of the object, there is one copy for all the static stuff. So can I call static whenever I need it? The answer to this is definitely yes, because this is a kind of static stuff, I can easily call it. While this sum is an instance method, for calling to it I need to make a copy. So how can I make a copy? I can create an object. So if I create an object, okay, let's say methods m is equals to new methods. So this is the objects that I have created. Now this sums copy is available, but is it available for everyone? No, it is only available for m. Since this is a kind of instance stuff, the copy is only made available for that particular object. So whenever I want to call this, I need to call it like m dot sum, and since it is a kind of method, I need to use the parenthesis. How many arguments does it expect? It expect 2 arguments of type int, so I can provide 4,2, and now at this moment it will work definitely fine. So let's try this one out. Okay, so sum is giving us an error over here. Okay, so let us remove this stuff. All right, so let me create a object. That's m is equals to new methods. All right, so now I have created an object. Now the copy of sum is available for m, so I need to point the method of m, so I can say m dot sum. So this works fine, and now you know the difference, that what is the difference between the, okay, first let me bring this. All right, so yes, I am running this and this gives us the expected results. So now this works fine, but now as we have discussed in our instance and static variable class, like in the session that we have discussed the difference between instance and static, you know when to use them. I hope you all know that, and if you are again not very much clear about the difference between them, you can again go to that session where we have discussed about this. All right, so you know that for this only one copy, and for this copy is equals to number of object, and you know the scenarios when you are going to use each one of them. When the thing or when the method is going to affect the object states, you are gonna use the instance, and when it is just a thing or just a obvious thing, or you don't want multiple copies, then you can have static. So static methods mostly are a kind of utility methods. So for example, over here, that doesn't make sense to make this as instance, because there is no effect of this sum method, because if I have 10 objects, then too my sum will gonna perform the same way that we want. All right, so I hope this is clear to everyone. So for whenever you create methods such like this, sum, subtract, average, this is a kind of utility method that you use for your ease. Okay, so these methods must be a kind of static, because this is the best practice that we follow. And when the methods are for your object's sake, so for example, I am using a student class inside a student class. So for example, I am having a method for this particular student, like method called as void run or eat. So this represents the functionality of this student. Okay, walks, correct? So this affects the state of this student object, but sum is just a utility method that we can use whenever I want, even in our different classes, and we'll see how can I use the code in different class. Don't worry about this. Yes, so college name is common for all the students. Yes, so yes, so we have discussed that scenario as well. When the college name is same for all the students, we make the thing as static. So if you are not clear about static and instance stuff again, then you can move back to our previous sessions and you can just go through the topics. So now my question to you all, okay, how many copies for static? I'm just going through it again and again so that you can get a better understanding of it. Yes. So is object needed for static, for invoking static? No. Is object needed for invoking instance? Definitely yes, because of the copies. So my question is, can I invoke static whenever I want? Can I invoke this method over inside this method easily? You will say yes, because the copy is always available for static. There is always one copy available, so there is no need to check whether a object is present or not. I can call static things whenever I want, okay, even if there is a object or not. So I can call a static within an instance method as well, correct? So I can call a static method within an instance method as well. Yes, so this is one possibility, that we can easily call a static method because the copy for static is always available. But now my second question is, again, static. All right, so can I call instance over here? Can I call instance inside the static thing? The answer to this is no. I cannot call instance inside the static. Now the question arises, why can I not call this, or what is the reason behind of that we are not able to call the instance method inside the static method? I agree, I totally agree the approach that you are going with. So now let's see. For static, I can call a static. Previously I made a statement that I can call a static even with zero objects. So if I don't have any objects, I can call static. So that is obvious that I can call this static method easily. But what if this thing was possible? What if I am able to invoke a instance method inside my static stuff? So now what will happen? The compiler won't give us any error because I am able to call the static method easily, but inside that it is invoking an instance method, and for invoking an instance method we need a object, but for this we don't need any object. So if we made this thing available for the Java, so our statement breaks, correct? Because now for make this work we need a object, but our statement was I can invoke the static stuff even without any objects. So I hope this is getting a bit clear, but yes, that might be a bit confusing to you all, but please try and understand that we cannot call instance method inside the static, or not only the methods. I'm discussing about any instance stuff. Okay, so this is a static method, let's say. So inside that I cannot have any instance stuff like instance a variable or add method. Okay, I cannot have any of this instance stuff. So I cannot invoke even a variable inside my static, even a instance variable. But yes, if the variable is static, so I can easily call this, because static, its copy is always available. So yes, so note some points, that static can call static but cannot call instance. See, over here I am not completing the statement. It is applicable for all the static stuff. It is applicable for all the static stuff, even if for the variables, even for the methods. All right, and for instance, first of all, like I said that static can be called by anyone because the copy is always available. Now the question is, can call or cannot call the instance method, correct? Now the next question is this, can instance call instance? So now let's try out an example. So over here, if I have two instance method and I try to invoke the another instance within this, Okay, so let's say instance 2. All right, so now for this the prerequisite is we at least have one object so that we have a copy, correct? So but if I am able to invoke this instance method, which means I definitely have at least one object, correct? So if I am able to invoke this, then I will be easily able to invoke this, because there exists a object, then only I am able to invoke this instance method. And if I am invoking this instance method for this method, sorry, for this objects, let's say m, so m dot instance, so this instance 2 will again be called for that particular object only. So just keep that in mind. We can invoke instance from instance. So instance can call instance methods as well, and static methods as well, static variables as well, and static instance variable as well, while static can call only the static stuff and it cannot invoke the instance stuff. No, for instance there is no syntax, means actually the syntax is you don't write any keyword. If it is a variable like this is a kind of instance variable. If it is a kind of variable like this, to make it static you use a static keyword. If you don't use it, then it is a instance one. And if you try and declare this int a inside this braces, so this is a main method. So anything inside the main method, any variable that you declare inside a main method like this, so don't get confused that this is not an instance method, this is a local variable. Okay, this is a local variable because I am declaring it inside a method. So don't get confused with this, because instance and static are declared globally. All right, so they are declared directly within the class bodies. Sorry, over here. Yes, so I hope this makes a clear understanding and you get a better visualization that how instance and static method works and what are the rules that we should follow. So now let's try and practice something. So can I call sum over here? The answer to this is no, because sum is a kind of instance, correct? Sum is a kind of instance method and subtract is a static method. So if I remove this static over here, then I call this? Definitely yes, because if you are able to call subtract, then you will be able to call sum as well. So let's make it static directly, and now let me comment this. And now can I call subtract over here? The answer to this is yes. So I can give any values like this, yes, and it works fine. So we are able to call this subtract method, or I can say the static method, from our instance method, but we cannot call the instance method from our static method. So I hope this explanation is clear to each and every one of you. Okay, so now you might think like creating a object over here, correct? So let me name it as object only, obj. All right, this is the object. You can create objects inside the method, because even the main method is a method, correct? So you are this, see, main method, we can learn a lot from our main method. If we can do anything inside it, I can do anything in any other static method as well. So I can create object over here as well. So I am able to invoke sum, which is a instance, correct? But by creating a m, that is the object. So I can again say that instead of directly invoking the sum, I am providing the object with the help of which I can call the sum. Yes, so now it is okay, we can call it easily, correct? Because we have created our own object. Okay, yes, so now this object, but again this is not a global object. This is a local variable. This is only available for the subtract method only, and from this line to this line, that's it, and it is not accessible outside it. Okay, so I hope this thing is clear to everyone. Now comes the memory allocation part for this. Yes, so you know that how memory gets allocated for instance and static based on the objects, correct? But now we are going to learn where method calls are stored, correct? Like previously, a was getting stored in stack, or any objects like obj1 was getting stored inside the heap. So now where this sum int comma int gets stored, correct? Your question will be this. So let's see this. So method calls, as I said, there are two kind of memory for now, stack and heap, correct? So in heap all the object stuff, and in stack other than the object stuff. So all the method calls are stored over here only. Okay, now your question will be, hey, I am creating variables, correct? So they are also created at the same time. But the thing is, now your question will be, if I invoke a method 10 times, there will be a 10 variable a, correct? 10 a, 10 b, of which I am only using one at a time. Where does the 9 goes? And if the 9 is still there, which means I am wasting the memory. If I invoke a method 100 times, I am wasting the value for the 99 a's, because I am not using them again and again. I am creating it whenever I am creating a new variable, whenever I want to use that particular method, correct? Your question is too obvious, correct? Okay, so now let's see where does this 9a goes. Okay, so what happens whenever you call this sum, it is inside the stack, it creates two variable, correct? So two variables are created, int a, int b. How many memory? 4 byte, 4 byte. Now you are using it throughout the method, correct? The execution is processing, okay, your execution is taking place. But as soon as your execution terminates, or as soon as your method ends, okay, not the execution, but as soon as your method ends, as soon as your method call ends, as soon as the instruction is completed, these variables are destroyed. So this is done for saving the memory. So it is not like that if you are invoking 10 times some method, it will have 10 a's and 10 b's. It will have only at the end of these, at the end of the successful execution of all this instruction, it will have 0a 0b. Okay, but at the 10th iteration, or at the 10th time you are invoking it, there will be only one and one copy. There is no previous 9 copies, because they are destroyed as soon as the method is successfully executed. So just keep this in mind. You might get a question in interview that what happens to the local variables. These are the local variables, we all know. We have discussed it in our previous session, the last session that we have covered yesterday. Yes, so I hope till now each and every concept of methods are clear to each one of you. If not, you can ask me the question in the live chat. Till now we'll just proceed with something called as method overloading. But if you are getting a clear idea, if you don't have any doubts, please write yes in the chat box, so that I get to understand that you are able to understand the topic. Till now I'll create a class, right? So let me create a new class, and let me give the class name as method overloading. Okay, all right, so we do need a main method for giving you the proof. All right, So what do we mean by method overloading? First, the question is this: what is method overloading? We know methods. Okay, let's break it into two parts. We know method. This is not a doubt. What is overloading then? So if I am having one method, I am overloading it. Okay, so I am making the same method again and again, but with some variations. Now your question will be, what are the variations? Correct. We'll see what is the variation, what is the rules for defining method overloading. All right, so let's get started with this. So for performing method overloading, we need to know some rules. Okay, first you define a method. So let's say this is your method, or let's use a sum method only. So static int sum int a comma int p. Okay, this over here we are going to write the method bodies. But now overloading means you are having the same method, means you are having the same method name. Correct. So I'm trying to create the three methods. I'm trying to create three methods with same method name. Now if you want to perform this, we'll see why do we need this. What is the purpose of declaring three methods of the same name? Don't worry about that. But now, for now, you know that if you declare int a is equals to some values, so let's say 10, and then you try to again do int a is equals to 20, will it work? No, because we are trying to redeclare it. We'll get an error, duplicate variable. So why or how am I able to perform this task now? Because our compiler might get confused that which sum am I supposed to call. So to remove the confusion, what we can do is, or what we have to do is, we have to make this parameter list different. So what do I mean by different parameter list? So first of all, just note the point: for method overloading, same method name and different parameter list. Just these 2 points. Okay, always keep these 2 points in mind, and if any other points come to your mind, just delete that. Okay, because you always have to look for method overloading only for these two possibilities. If any other variation takes place, that doesn't bother, because that doesn't affect the method overloading stuff. All right, so what I said, I need to make changes in the parameter list. So over here it is expecting two parameters. I can give only one parameters like this. So over here it is having only one parameter. Now I can change the type of the parameter as well. Is the parameter list different? Definitely yes. Now I can have like this as well. Okay, and I can just swap this, because I'm changing the number of parameter which, okay, let it be a, yes. So see over here, all of these are having a different parameter list. We'll see the example for this as well. So now for calling first one, how you will call sum 1 comma 2. For calling second one, how you will call 1. For calling third, you can call 1.2 comma 2.3. For calling fourth, 1 comma a. For calling fifth, see, this even gives you a preciseness that which method it calls, because you have changed the parameter list, though the name of it is similar. Correct, but you are changing the parameter list. Okay, so now I hope you know what is the change in parameter list means. All right, we'll see some examples with this, and then I hope it will be clear to each one of you. So let's proceed with this. Let me create, all right, let me create some. Okay, int sum. We'll take the same example. Previously you gave me a task, okay, or I was doing a task. I was just writing a method named as sum, and it was returning the sum of two numbers. Okay, so now I ask my friend, okay, or I ask you, and I say that I have created a method called as sum. You provide any two values to it and it will give you the sum of the two values. Okay, let me make it static. You know the reason why it is giving us the error. Yes, so now I ask you to just provide two values to this sum method and it will give you the sum of the two numbers. So you give, yes. Now do you know why it is not printing anything? Because it is throwing some value and I am not having any container to store it. So let me print the value over here. All right, yes. Okay, so the value comes out to be 9. Now you are getting jealous of me, okay, because I have done something that it will give the sum of two numbers. Now you are getting jealous of this code. So now what you are trying to do is you trying to give some numbers like this, okay, or some numbers like this. So now you laugh at me, hey, your code breaks. If I give one double value, your code breaks. So now I got to fix this. So what I did is I kept the name same of the method, so that because I have given you the statement that my sum method will work with any scenarios. All right, so I need to fix this using the overloading. Okay, yes. So now let me return a plus b. Okay, so now I again tell you, all right, sorry, I again tell you that you try it again, it will work fine, and it works fine, correct. So now I have fixed the problem halfway. Now what you did is you say, all right, I'll give both the double values, and now you again laugh at me that hey Rohan, your code again breaks. I again need to fix this. And now at this time what I am supposed to do, I am supposed to give the parameters as double and double, and then it works fine, correct. Yes, so this is the, yes, so it works fine. So these are the some variations that I can make with the method. But now your question will be, why do I need overloading now, correct? So the only purpose of overloading is increasing the readability. So the sole purpose of using method overloading is increasing the readability. So now your question will be, why do I need to, means how does it increases the readability? All right, I'll give you the proof. So if I ask you, you have to call someone, or if you try to give two int values for calculating the sum of two double values like 5.7 and 6.7, you need to call sum2 and sum3 for double comma int and sum4 for int comma double. Isn't it very untidy kind of code? Because you need to remember the four methods. Now after 1 year, if I ask you, I give you these values, Okay, now you will get confused. Which method am I supposed to call? Was that sum1 or sum2 or sum3 or sum4? See, this need memorization, correct? And again, by reading the code as well, if I say I have created 4 methods, sum1, sum2, sum3, sum4, is it a good way of writing any code? Because this doesn't give any description. What do you mean by sum1, sum2, sum3, sum4? No. So this is not a good way of writing the code. So what you did is you used method overloading. You gave all this scenario name as sum only. Okay. But you use the different parameter list. And what do I mean by parameter list? This is the parameter list, only the parenthesis. So anything other than that doesn't matter. Okay, just mark this sentence that anything other than the name and the parameter list doesn't matter in method overloading. Okay, so see, this is the signature. And there are other scenarios as well, but for now we are just interested in discussing the topic. So we will take these 5 examples. All right, so is this a valid example? You will say yes. First thing is the name should be same. Second thing is, okay, there is a difference in the parameter list. All right, this will work fine. Okay, so now let us take some examples that might or might not break the code, and you are going to answer to each one of them. Okay, so now let's say public int sum int a comma int b. I need to override this method, overload this method. Now I am going to write some examples and you tell me which of them are invalid. Okay, so first one I am writing don't worry about this public and private, but for now I need to give this example. Yes, so okay, just a second. We have seen how compiler or how JVM looks for the method, so just keep that thing in mind. Yes, so I want to override this method. Which of them are the valid examples? So first one, let's see if I try to invoke this. Okay, so see what happens. It always looks for a signature. So what is the signature of our actual thing? Int comma int. It will always look for this signature. Is this signature different than this signature? Then it will work fine. So let me create a signature for this. Okay, so is it a valid example? Okay, first method name must be same. Great, first step cleared. Second, difference in parameter list, int comma int and int comma double. Great, this is a valid example. Now the second one, over here it says that public int sum, is the name same? Great, first step clear. Difference in the method list. Now this is again an interesting question. Okay, so over here what is the signature for this? Int comma int. Is it same as our this example? It is definitely same, though it is having the different name of the variable, but the variable name doesn't matter because they are local variable. What matters is the list, the parameter list, or the method signature we can say. So over here this is not a valid example. Just note these points and just note these examples. Okay, in this scenario, the third one, someone says that third one is valid. Let's see that. What is the signature of this? Sum int comma int. Is it different from the first one? No, it is not. Again, not a valid example because you have said that it is valid because of this private, but what I said to note you that only the method name and the parameter list is the one that gonna affect the method overloading stuff. So these are no one. Okay, the private, the access modifier like private, public, or the return type like int, double, or any other data type are no one to specify whether a method is overloaded or not. The one that counts is the name of the method and the parameter list. Okay, now let's take the next example. Public double sum int int. Again, what is the signature? Int comma int. Is it different from the first one? Again, no. So the invalid examples of method overloading are really very important to know. Over here I have changed the return type, but as I said, this stuff are no one to declare whether it is a overloaded method or not. So whenever you want to check whether a method is over validly, means whether it is a valid example for overloading or not, you just ignore this stuff. Okay, just ignore the variable names as well, and now compare it with the actual thing. Is it the thing that is left, is it the same? The answer will be yes. Only sum and int is left, which means it is the same and I cannot have same methods. So that's the reason why it is not valid. Now your question might be like, why it is not valid? Why I cannot have two methods with the same signature? So if I try to call sum 2 comma 2, now the compiler, or we can say the JVM, depending upon what kind of method it is, gets confused which sum to call. Even this takes 2 parameter as int and even this takes 2 parameter as int. So that's the reason why I cannot have two methods with the same signature. Now next example over here, public int add int char. Int char suffice for the rules, but this add, just note this, the method name is different. So this is again not a valid overloading, but this is a valid method because add is a new method, correct? Add is a different method, so it won't get into, or it won't interrupt the execution for the sum, or it won't give us any error. It is a valid method but not a valid example for overloading. Now this public int sum and this, what is the signature for this? Let me erase some stuff. Yes, right. So what is the signature for this? Sum this. Is it different from this signature? Definitely yes, because it expects two parameters or two arguments and it doesn't. So it is again a valid example. The last one says that public int sum int a int b int c. What is the signature for this? Sum int comma int. Is it a valid example? Again yes, because it expects 3 parameter and it expects 2 parameter. So number of parameters do matter. Alright, so I hope method overloading is very much clear to each one of you. You know why do we use method overloading, what are the valid examples, what are the scenarios that we can encounter while performing the method overloading. We have seen the examples as well. What I expect from you is now just go and practice as much as you can for this topic. It is a kind of easy topic. You will get a better understanding just by practicing it for few minutes. Yes, so you can practice few examples, okay, and try and implement by your own. Don't refer Google or anything. First try some examples that you get into your head, and then you can take some another example by referencing the browser. So I hope today's session is very much clear to each one of you, and if you have any doubts, ask me now. And tomorrow what we are going to learn is varargs, and then we'll move to constructors. So in tomorrow's session we are going to learn varargs and constructor, and after this we are going to learn constructor overloading. So now method overloading you have seen, so learning constructor overloading won't be that hard to for you all. Okay, so constructor overloading won't be that difficult because we already know what is method overloading, so it kind of follow the same rules. Okay, and we'll see how do we perform the constructor overloading, but before that we need to discuss what are constructor. The way that we discussed before method overloading, we discussed methods, correct? Yes, and tomorrow we are first going to see what are varargs. All right, so if you have any doubts, you can ask me now, or you can post a doubt in the comment section and I'll definitely reply back to your doubts. All right then, so see you all tomorrow at the same time, that is 7:30, and hope you all enjoyed this session. So if name is different, then is it a invalid? Okay, so your question is, if two methods, public int sum int a int b and public, okay, I know the overloading stuff is confusing you, but are you sure you want to ask me this doubt? Let me tell you why I am saying that. Isn't this method sum? All right, we have deleted that, but okay, isn't this method sum and this method main have a different name? Do we get any error? No. So the thing is, if I have two methods with different name, it is not a overloading, but we are declaring two methods independently, correct? Means they are different methods. There is one method called as sum and another method called as add. That's it. How can you call this? You can call it as sum 5,6. How can you call this? You can call it as add 5,6. So it doesn't create any confusion for the compiler. All right, so yes, if you have two different method with different name, then it doesn't fit the overloading stuff, but it do fit the declaration stuff. Okay, so it is a different method, it is not overloading, but yes, it is a valid method. It won't give you any error. But if you are expecting that this is a kind of overloading, no, because for overloading you must have the same method name. All right, so see you all tomorrow at the same time. And yes, so if you have any doubts, as we discussed, you can just post your doubt in the comment section. So thank you everyone for joining the session. We'll catch up tomorrow at the same time. Parameters are the one that do matter, correct? First we need to have the same name, and after having the same name we need to take care of the parameter list. And what are the parameters, or what are the parameter list, the parameters that we declare, like int a comma int b. We have discussed the scenarios, right? If you are again getting confused, just just go few minutes behind and just watch the video again. Okay, so you are asking int a, int b, and if int c, int d, is it a valid example? Again, we have covered this scenario as well, but let me take it again. So sum int a, int b, and sum int c, you are saying, and int d. I ask you what you have to take into consideration. Just delete the previous stuff, just delete the name of the variables. Now, is it the same stuff? Then it is not a valid, and if it is a different stuff, then it is a valid example. Okay, so if you are having int a comma int b and some int c comma int d, then what happens? What is the signature for this? Some int comma int. What is the signature for this? Some int comma int. Is it the same signature? Correct. So this is not a valid example. What is garbage collection? See, we don't have to like go into garbage collection in the overloading stuff. We'll have a different section for garbage collection. Okay, so don't worry about this. Yes, so I hope this is clear to everyone. Do you have any doubts? Okay then. So okay, so I'll just stop this stream for now. If you have any doubts, you can ask me. So thank you everyone for joining.